What's up, everybody? Today we are going to be jumping in and checking out true meaning behind the words of the Star Spangled Banner. I never really, I understand the words of it, but I don't really fully know the whole story of what part of the war. So I'll dive in and check out how they came to write the words of our national anthem. And from what I've heard, it's a pretty touching story, and it describes what it means to be a true an American. So let's go on and jump in and check it out, and hopefully don't get teary-eyed. So let's go ahead and dive on in. There we go.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child. Never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men,
I'm going to try not to pause too much because I want to give the video the respect it deserves. But could you imagine living in those times and being a prisoner at the bottom of a warship like that in cages with all that excrement and smelliness of the other people around you and smelliness of all the excrement down there? Like, it's unfathomable. Couldn't even wrap my mind around what it would be like to be in that type of situation. Like I said, I'm going to try not to pause as much so I can give the video the respect it deserves.
News for you tonight, you're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort. They said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. He said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top, and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us why the flag. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not there. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees. The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. You don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer. God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely knocked to shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle. The flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when hit had fallen, but men, fathers, knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground. Although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. Incredible. And the song, oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Right. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet fly? or the land of the free, the home of the brave. The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid. Oh, sing, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proud we did at the twilight's last gleaming, brought pipes and bright stars through the fading world and light. For the ramparts we walked were so gallantly straight, and spread the dawn's first thing it was the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, slave, does that star spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow, that's just it's just incredible to know that those men went out there, loaded up, knowing that hundreds of cannons were being fired on them, that they were going to die. That's that's incredible. And the sad part to me is not only that they died, that we don't even know their names. Like, why doesn't anybody teach us this in history class or anything like that? Like, we should 100% know who they are. There should be a memorial dedicated to those men who did that. That baffles me that they knew what that meant for the flag to be on the ground, that if that flag was lower, we surrendered and we would be back under British rule. They were not having that, not in the slightest. And history just forgot their names. It's sad. There's a song about them, obviously, but I mean, we should know their names. And as an American, that really bothers me, that I have to learn about this from a video instead of being taught it the right way in school and all that. I'm a huge history buff. I love history, like the real history, true history. What do you guys think? I mean, now knowing, that people actually held the flag in place, and when they died, they moved their bodies, and then other men watching other men die, knowing that they're going to die, remove their bodies and actually went and still held this flag up, knowing that they're going to die at any second. That is patriotism to the extreme. We'll probably never see anything like that ever again. Nope, not in today's day and age. Everybody's too worried about what their pronouns are rather than, you know, doing anything for America. It's just, it, it hurts me. It's sad. It's really, really sad. But I'd like to know what you guys think. So let me know down in the comments how you feel after watching this video, or, does it make you teary eyed? I got a little teary eyed on it because I didn't know that anything about that. I mean, obviously I know the words, everybody knows the national anthem. But like I said in the video, you memorize it as a child, but you don't ever know that you don't know the true meaning of it and how it came about. It's incredible how they leave how they leave the most important parts of history out. It's sad. It's a shame. But yeah, not gonna waste your guys' time. Just I really like to know what you guys think. Leave it. I want to see what kind of conversations this sparks up. So let me know in the comments. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe. And I'll catch you guys down in the comments. All right, peace.